Democrats always invites me every year to come and speak about my work in the Congress. Ward 8 Democrats are the most active Democrats and have done this ever since I've been in Congress. So your presence has been very important to me. The first 100 days of the Congress, as far as I was concerned, was all about statehood. Actually, the Congress did a whole lot. I mean, we passed, and I'm not going to go through the entire agenda, but very important laws that, and you know, everything from prescription drugs. There's very important matters that passed. For me, the 100 days was all about statehood, because we got more in those 100 days than we've gotten in 218 years on statehood. And let me give you some of the flavor of what we got, and then I'll go a little bit into the details of what it means. I'm going to be discussing the strongest conceivable statement from the Speaker of the House and from the Majority Leader. Those are the people that get us to the floor. Without them, you're not on the floor. It doesn't matter if you have a bill. I'm going to be discussing the strong support we have among Senate Democrats, and I'm going to be discussing the upcoming hearing on statehood on July 24th, where we're trying to get the kind of turnout we got when I got a hearing in statehood several years ago in the Senate, and we had to get a bigger room because so many residents showed up. That's what we'd like to have on the 24th of July. We have broken the record of co-sponsors. We now have 213 co-sponsors. You need 218 to pass a bill. Most bills that go to the floor don't have anything like the number of co-sponsors we have. If I were to guess, if Nancy Pelosi came to me and said, "Do you want to go to the floor on Monday?" I would say go. And the reason I would say go is that when you get to the point where you have 213 co-sponsors, you have enough co-sponsors to pass the bill. We're being obviously cautious. We're going to get the 218 before we even go. But I point that out so that you understand that most bills don't get co-sponsored by everybody in the House or by the majority of Democrats. We have 63% of the Senate Democrats. We're still working on some Senate Democrats we ought to have, and I think we will get. And I think the Senate is a little slower than the House because the Senate is in the hands of the Republicans. So that if we got every single Democrat, we would probably find it difficult to move a statehood bill in the Republican Senate. H.R. 1 was the first sign of the strong support we have for DC statehood. You may have heard about this bill. It's a pro-democracy bill. There are many ways in which our democracy isn't full. There are gerrymandering. We have a bill to get around gerrymandering as an example of what a pro-democracy bill is. But in that bill were extensive that the district should have a vote. Now on H.R. 1, we got 100% of the Democrats. And one of the things we're telling Democrats is you've already voted for DC statehood, because H.R. 1 had DC statehood in it. And I do think it is also a sign that the statehood bill will pass on the floor of the House this session of Congress. Every senator also backs findings. The Senate, we're working simultaneously in the Senate and the House, and theirs is interesting because they did not put our H.R. 1 is a very long bill. There are very many ways in which you could make statehood democracy more extensive. But the Senate has in theirs voting rights, one other, which slips my mind. I should have it down here someplace. But the third one is DC Statehood. So they didn't do as many pro-democracy bills as we did, and only did 3. The district is one of them. It shows you the kind of strong support that we have. Even though we only have 63% of the Democrats, it means we probably could get all of them as well. I do want just to read Pelosi's single, sentence or two to let you know with this kind of support, we're on our way. Now, the Speaker isn't on our bill yet. The reason is the Speaker seldom gets on any bills. So what she did on the third day of the new session, when the Democrats had taken over the House in January, here's what she said. For too long, the residents of the District of Columbia have served our nation in uniform, paid taxes, and contributed to the economic power and success of our country while being denied full enfranchisement that is their right. H.R. 51, you get it? H.R. 51? The Washington, D.C. Admission Act is a critical step in righting this historic wrong. Well, if I had been writing her statement, I don't think I could have made it any stronger than that. She has always been, by the way, one of the greatest friends the district has ever had. It's not that I'm surprising, it's just to emphasize how important it is. Steny Hoyer is a big catch we've never had before. I don't know if you remember when I first came to the Congress in the early 90s, I was determined to get a vote on statehood, and I did. That was the first time ever in the history of the country there was a vote on statehood in the House of Representatives. That was a very different time. We controlled the House. The way we controlled the House at that time, and we had controlled it, I was only in my first term, that's when we held the House for 30 years, is because we had many Southern Democrats. Now, Southern Democrats were not going to vote for statehood. Though we got more votes than we expected, we were not able to pass the bill. The House is very different today. Actually, we'd like to get back some Southern Democrats. And while I'll give you an example. There's a Southern Democrat that is not on our bill. I'll think of his name in a minute. And there's a Southern Democrat from Texas, very conservative, that just got onto our bill. So I think we could even get some Southern Democrats, and they're in very different territory from the rest of the country. Hoyer belonged at that time, and he is the longest serving member of our region and probably becoming close to being the longest serving in the House. He was hung up on commuter taxes. And it's true that the way we do commuter taxes now is reciprocal. That means that, yes, the states pay, Maryland, Virginia, but it would work much to the advantage of the District of Columbia. For what we pay going out, you see, is very small, very little compared to what the states would pay. So he had never signed on to the bill. Now understand, we have 4 senators from the region on the bill. The 2 from Maryland and the 2 from Virginia. And it wasn't that hard getting them on the bill. I can't tell you what will happen when we get to the final passage on this. But at this point we have them. And it is very important that they were willing to sign on. Hoyer, not only did he sign on, he asked me to come to his leadership office. That he has a big office there because he's the majority whip, so that we could do he could do a ceremonial signing of his co-sponsorship of the bill. Well, when you have the two top leaders who run the House of Representatives on your side, you go in full bore. We're about to have the first hearing in 26 years. I got that hearing when I first came to the House. And I ought to tell you what happened afterwards. While we got a bill passed, actually, I don't you remember, we were overjoyed because we knew we were going to lose, and we got more votes than we expected. But we lost the House right after that. DC Statehood didn't cause it to lose the House. It was probably due because we had the House open. We lost the House, and what it means is that we captured it somewhere along the line, then held it since I've been a member for only 4 years. It means that for most of my tenure in the Congress, I have been in the minority. I must tell you how good it feels to be in the majority. I am a subcommittee chair. I have all the prerogatives of the leadership. That has not been what I've gotten from the district. I've had to get working with Republicans, bringing them along with me. DC TAG, which is sending our children to colleges in all 50 states. I have been able to work with Republicans to get that bill. It has been exquisitely important to the district. The way I got the bill is the district was losing residents. Remember when the district went bottom side up, literally bankrupt? People scattered out of the district like rats running from a fire. And I wasn't in the leadership. I went to the leadership and said, look, I'm not going to do anything for us, but could you help us keep our residents? And actually some of them signed on to this bill with me. It almost immediately turned around the flight from the district. And we've been able to keep this bill ever since. The reason it's so important and the reason I mention it is if you live in a city that has only one state-supported college, we're very pleased to have the University of the District of Columbia, but it's an open admission college, and you live where two states each have more than 30 each, that is like a fatal attraction to leave the district because you can go for low in-state tuition. My DC TAG bill allows you to go to any state-supported institution anywhere in the United States for low in-state tuition. And I get $10,000 from the Congress to make up for if it happens to cost more for state tuition. That's what held Steny up. What held him up was the commuter tax. He's gotten past that. And since he's number 2 in the House, that matters. Now, I have always believed in use every tool you can. To tell you the truth, we don't even have full home rule yet. That's why you see the fight that I have to wage every year just to get our appropriation out. You ought to ask yourself, well, what's your appropriation doing there in the first place? Well, we could do that with with Democrats in the majority, and that's what, so at the same time that I'm trying to get statehood, I am also trying to fill out home rule, and just to give you examples of the kinds of things we could get even without statehood, local prosecutor instead of the U.S. attorney. That would be particularly important out here to have somebody that's immediately responsive to you. National Guard. Have to go to the president to call out the National Guard. In days of climate change, I would hope that we could call out our own National Guard. I just gave you a couple to let you know the dual track, expanding home rule, going for statehood. I told you I'm a subcommittee chair. I'll give you an example of what the district is going to get. I got this when we were in the minority. I got it by working with a Republican, but it's important to know because DC, I wanted DC to be an empowerment zone, but I was not for the tax cut bill. I was strongly against the tax cut bill. That gives tax cuts to corporations and to the top 1%. That's why, by the way, that's Trump's major achievement. You don't hear Republicans talking about that because it doesn't much affect you. Most of us may have gotten a little bit of a break, but that's not where most of the money went. Well, but in that bill, there were all kinds of other things related to taxes you could get. So I partnered with a man who used to be in the House, Tim Scott, from South Carolina. Because I wanted, since empowerment zones were going through that bill, that tax bill, I wanted DC in it. There are 3 wards, parts of wards, that qualify for empowerment zones. 5, 7, and 8, parts of each of those wards. And what this does is to give real incentive for business to locate in your ward, or to bring business to your ward. I hope everyone is aware of the Southwest waterfront. That is my bill. And then there's the Southeast waterfront. Both of those are 10 years of building a district that was fallow land. We were getting nothing out of it. Bringing amenities, tax funds, tourists, and places for residents to go. Rankings are done of members of the House and Senate. The latest rankings out were last year when I was in the minority, and I was ranked the most effective Democrat in the House. I was blown away. And to show you what the organization that does it, which is called the Center for Effective Lawmaking, they say that they define effectiveness as, not you get on the floor and make speeches, I do that too, but to quote them, as proven ability to advance a member's agenda items through the legislative process into law. So you have got to show that you not just file bills, and I file more bills than any member of the House or Senate, not just file them, but you get more bills in law. I do want to mention that you've had 10 years of WMATA funding to fix WMATA. That's been very important to us. We have 10 more years of that. That is very critical to our city. And those are the major matters that either touch on home rule or touch on statehood, or matters that I thought Ward 8 Democrats would be interested in. If I can answer any of your questions or hear your feedback, I could benefit from it.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for coming out and giving us this information, Congresswoman Norton. You mentioned that you have legislated for Southwest and Southeast
Waterfront.
Southeast waterfront. Could you tell a little bit?
Capitol Riverfront. Okay. Yeah, that's the Capitol Riverfront. And actually, it's pretty much up and going, but it's got 10 more years. And by the way, we just kicked off phase 2 of the wharf. And yet, if you go to the wharf, it looks like it's already finished.
Right, yeah, I know.
So the great thing about that is not only the waterfront and a whole new place to get tax funds from, mostly from people outside of the district, but it means that you're taking land that was bringing the district nothing and making it useful for our residents.
I thought maybe it was going to be the Southeast on this side. It was about the Navy Yard. Okay.
No, it is by the Navy Yard.
Yes.
It is by the Navy Yard.
Right, that's what I said. It is by the Navy Yard.
Yeah, it is.
I thought maybe it was something planned for on this side. But then we got the 11th Street Bridge coming.
Yeah, which is also my bill.
Okay.
The 11th Street Bridge is my bill. It's halfway done, and it will be here soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember when you put forth the initiative for the Anacostia River cleanup. And once upon a time, it was ranked like high in terms of being like one of the worst tributaries along the Potomac. It is experienced quite a renaissance and a comeback. You see creatures on 2, 4, and all kinds of legs enjoying the park. And it really is wonderful. So I just wanted to say thank you.
And I should have mentioned that. This is our lead sponsor of the bill to clean the Anacostia. And we got the first, they measure it every year, the first feedback showing that it's beginning to be clean. And you're seeing people, I guess, who understand.
Yesterday, I saw a gentleman showing off a fish that he caught.
We're still not asking people to
He was showing off the size.
No,
Yeah.
people do eat out of the
But the
river.
birds have come back, and you see the,
Yeah, we're still asking people not to eat the fish, but the Anacostia is on its way back, and that's been a top priority. Yes, Brett.
First of all, thank you for your leadership. A lot of what we've experienced has been because of your leadership in DC, and you supported the local government, and you've inspired a lot of the policymakers in the council and the mayor, and so I thank you for that. I have a question about statehood. The question is, how will we as a city collaborate within the different parties, Democrat, Republican, Independent, statehood, Green Party, to advance the 51 agenda?
I'm not sure whether the Republican Party stands on statehood. They were always for the House vote and the House and Senate vote. I think we have only about, you only need a Barbara soon.
Were you asking about the local Republican Party or the national?
No, not the national, DC.
The local, I'm Barbara with DC Vote. The local party still officially says they are in favor of statehood. Patrick Mara, who has been the head of it for some time, very much in favor of statehood. But parties elect new leaders and all of that, so there could be a change, but I believe they are still current.
But they've come a long way, because they were not always for statehood. All these other parties that you mentioned have been statehood.
They're gonna testify on the July hearing.
No, because we are very much limited in the number of witnesses you can have. So, that who eats that up is the mayor and the city council chair, and I think you can only have 5 witnesses. But this is what I'm going to do. Because people would want to be heard, we're going to have a round table allowing people to come and testify on their own about what statehood means, why statehood is important for them and for the district. Because you couldn't get all these people to testify at an official hearing. But a round table is almost as good.
Yeah, it's almost as good.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring that, Congresswoman, because, the history is that people on the Hill had an affinity towards DC for 2 reasons. It was majority black, and it was majority Democrat. And so,
they said we were too liberal.
And we were too liberal. Yeah, and we were too liberal. And so, to deal with that Hill mentality, bringing all of our forces to bear. So Patrick Mara, the Republicans, the Statehood, the Green Party, supporting, so that the Democrats are not just the only ones talking. Because when you go to a national platform, so them people up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, they all they hear is first is Democrat and then it's black. So maybe we need to look at, because that's where a lot of the problem has been over the years, is that, like Angela said, we were too liberal, too Democrat, too black. Now, with the population is changing, so that's a little bit better.
That's another
You said 2 to 3.
Barbara, you want to speak to that?
Well, there's things we all need and can do. Our warrior has her plate full, right? So, how many of you know people who live somewhere outside of DC?
All my family's
How many
out
of
of
you
DC.
have had a serious conversation with them about why you want them to support us becoming a state, that you want us to be equal to everybody else, and have them contact their Congress people?
Well, look, I think we ought to lay our cards on the table, because the Reverend is, when he raises Republicans, needs to hear where they are. The Republican Party is not for statehood. Now, it is true that, and what Barbara's alluding to is also important, that outside of the district, people think you have the same rights they have. That's very dispiriting, that even our friends don't even know. When it comes to Republicans, we're not going to have any support in the House from Republicans. You probably wouldn't have had it, 10 or 15 years ago, but today, you have a very polarized Trump party. So that's not how you get things done in the House. You move, and you keep pushing until you get what you have to get done. And it always works this way. A bill that is important always passes the House first. And even if McConnell wasn't there, it always languishes in the Senate for some time. But just think what you're going to have. You're going to have 218 or more House members. They all come from states. That gives you a leg up in the Senate that you would not otherwise have in their state. If the House passed the bill today, and I'm making fun of the House, of the Senate, but I'm not too far off. If the House passed a bill today to say that the sun is shining today, and we passed it by unanimous consent, I cannot tell you that bill would pass the Senate. That's just how hard it is to get a bill to pass the Senate. So if you think of, well, can I get this through the Senate, you'll never pass a House bill. You pass a House bill, you get the largest majority you can, you get as many co-sponsors as you can, you load it for bear, you go over there, and you dare them not to pass the bill. Will they pass it next year? No. But they're certainly not going to pass it until the House passes it. So the burden is really on the people's House to go first, and that's what's happening.
How long does the bill last for? So I know you introduced it earlier this year. Does it expire at the end of every Congress, and you have to reintroduce it? Okay.
But that hasn't hurt us. We've had it expire. We've had huge numbers of co-sponsors. The moment a new Congress comes in, they immediately go back on the bill. Yes?
How important is it to try to urge the flipping of different Republican states? Is that something that we should be putting energy in by him?
Well, one of the reasons we have to be very careful, the reason, I'll use your question to show why Nancy Pelosi isn't rushing forward for impeachment. How did we get the House? Did we get the House because of people who have my politics, Eleanor Norton's politics? We got the House because we flipped those Republican seats. And in flipping them, that means they're still Republican. That House member was just good enough to get those seats. And when we flipped them, we didn't flip them by 10 and 20 votes. We flipped them by 2 votes or 5 votes, usually under 5 votes. And if you want to hold this House, then you can't be self-indulgent. I think they hold the key to everything. They are the ones, by the way, that were slower to get on the bill. A lot of them are on the bill. But As most most Americans don't know you don't have the same rights that they have, these new members didn't know it. So they have to be schooled to that first, and then they have to understand, they who are from Republican districts, that voting for statehood won't hurt you. And still, we have a good number on the bill, as co-sponsors. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman. I echo everyone's.
Speak up, I can't hear you.
Good afternoon, and I echo everyone's sentiments of your leadership. Very thankful for it. I have less of a statehood issue, more of a local issue. If you could help us with and let us know as a community what can we do to support you to get the Postmaster General to give our post offices some attention. The one on Alabama Avenue, the one on Southern Avenue. There's usually maybe one person working. There's a line literally every time you go into the post office. Many times it's dirty, right? It's unkept. But yet I can go on Capitol Hill to the post office and you know, even if it's a line, there's still, if there's 3 counters, there's 3 people working behind the counter. And I know that happens on federal with the Postmaster General, so what can I do to support you to kind of help us get some attention in our post offices?
Well, I first of all, I appreciate that you use the occasion of my coming out here to tell me about this. This has not been brought to my attention. This is a federal issue. These people come, and I am on the committee. If you would give me, my staff is here, Jackie Pell. If you would give me the post offices you're talking about, I will ask the Postmaster General, we have a new one by the way, to come into my office and put it to her. This is
Alabama Avenue and Southern Avenue.
Alabama Avenue and Southern Avenue.
Alabama Avenue technically is in Ward 7.
No, that's all right. Alabama and Southern Avenue post offices.
It's the Anacostia and Commerce Heights branches. That's the official name of it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Congresswoman, can I add that it's not just the post office buildings, it's the delivery of mail.
Yes.
They don't have no set times. We miss days. My senior citizens on this past month didn't get their checks mailed. They had to go to the post office to complain to the person. They were throwing our mail in my house. They were throwing the mail on the sidewalk. And I had to go down and talk to the guy, the manager. So it's not just.
Well, whoever is the ANC out here, I wish they would. I come out to the way in which I usually get information like this is I speak at ANC, or I come to ANC meetings, and if you could tell your ANC to invite me so that I could then get the information on the post office. This is right in our jurisdiction. Yes, ma'am.
I was kind of surprised. I went to the DC Water Town Hall meeting this week.
The DC what?
Water. WASA.
Oh, WASA.
Water and Sewer Authority. Used to call it. Now they call themselves DC Water. I was like shocked to find out that they have one source of water, the Potomac River. And
What do you think?
well, they only have 36 hours of stored water. That sounds kind of critical to me. 36 hours? 36 hours of stored water.
Take that down. I never heard that number before. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
If the whole thing breaks down, they only have water. You know, like if their pumps are bombed or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know.
They only have 36 hours.
I don't know what it would mean. I don't know. I need to find out, well, where would we get our water from if we went out of 36 hours? So I will find that out. Huh?
The CEO of DC Water, David Gaddis, he seemed to be a very knowledgeable person who had a lot
Did he
of-
say what would happen after 36 hours?
Nobody brought that up, but they only have one source.
Well, first of all, they're doing it. Did he discuss what they were doing out there with the major stormwater overflow? they have a major project, and maybe the stormwater overflow will help deal with this, where they are essentially redoing everything about DC water. But I've never heard that they.
That's the stormwater that they're doing something about. They also had they were going to change that, we're now charged by each unit of water. Now they're going to shift from PREAC to sewer volumetric rate. So if you're dumping more into the sewer, you're going to pay more, rather than everybody just getting charged for this stored water thing.
Maybe I need to have a town meeting with DC Water then. I did not even know about this meeting you talked
I
about.
know, that's why I went to the meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Regarding the budget? Trump seems to be rolling back a lot of things that most communities of color have taken for granted.
Who's rolling them back?
They're telling me that there's a 1,600 Pennsylvania.
Oh, Trump, okay.
Trump. I don't like calling his name, so I refer to him as the man. And I want to know what's with the Democrats putting up a vigorous fund. I am thinking that we have critical needs in terms of housing. Our housing repair stock in various cities, including DC, is now approaching the $1 billion mark to repair public housing and all the others. I know New York is $5 billion. What is the Democratic Party's position on this? Because according to Ben Carson, he's slashing the budget on repairs in half.
What is the Democratic Party's position
on the cuts that is going to happen with HUD and stuff like that?
Well,
and this Section 8 program, he's going
we're in the midst of, and you're about to see changes come through in the appropriation bills. The appropriation bills are now moving through the House of Representatives. It's the first time in 8 years that Democrats in the House have had much say over issues like that, the critical issues you just raised. They have raised the amounts for the first time in some of these areas. In the new appropriation, which is not out, it'll be out in October. They're now beginning to go through the House. It matters to us because of the money. It matters to us because, for example, we have no riders on our appropriation bill. And we have always had riders. I've been able to get most of them off, but we've always had 2 or 3 on the bill. And you will see increased funding. I'm not sure that HUD, you asked about housing, has gone through yet, but there will be increases in housing. Now, when it comes to the Senate, the Republicans control the Senate. But the fact that the Democrats have raised the amounts will mean that the appropriators in the Senate and the appropriators in the House will get together, they will bargain those amounts, and we will get some increases. That they will not be what we deserve after 8 years that the Republicans have control, but you will see the first increases. Anything else?
Yeah, Congresswoman, I have just 2 quick questions. One is around gentrification, displacement that you've seen in our city. I know that you work at the federal level in representing the district, but clearly when you look outside your window at your home, you see a very different neighborhood than you did, even when you started as a Congresswoman. So I guess I'm just curious, what are your, I don't know if I've ever heard what your thoughts are about the phenomenon that's happening here in the district. And is there any federal legislative fix that you could think of that could help with urban cities like Washington and others that may be going through a similar type of displacement?
Well, what you're discussing is the raw fact that the district is one of the top gentrification locations in the United States. And all the king's men and women in the council or the Congress probably don't have a legislative remedy for that. The reason is, housing is a market matter. The only way in the Congress you can approach it, Section 8 housing, public housing, and I'm running out of ways. When it comes to your private housing, the market sets the rate. And if truth be told, blacks will sell for high prices. Somebody comes and says, I'll give you twice as much for your house as you pay for it. There is no legislation that can keep that person from taking that money. There are all kinds of things, and this then becomes a local issue. That, you see what the city is trying to do, $100,000, what is it, $100 million, whatever she does for every year to try to make sure that some moderate income residents are able to remain in the city. This is a great and terrible dilemma in my judgment. When you see the kind of turnover in cities like DC you're seeing, and you see how little in the way of an apparatus in a market economy you have to just say, okay, we'll just set aside some of this housing for people who can afford it. We can't get increases in public housing. One thing we've been able to do here is you notice when they are gentrifying housing and tearing down housing, they ain't touching public housing. So you've been able to keep the stock here, but you need more stock. And that, as gentrification occurs, you're going to need more public housing. And of course, the Democrats are just in power. Let's see whether the appropriation does anything more than I'm sure what they're going to do. And I see it's a big issue in D.C. is repairing public housing. We need increases in public housing. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody said Shepherd Park, the National Park Service was supposed to be redoing Shepherd Park off Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And that has not been done as of yet. The conditions still remain.
I can get you what's happening. They do have the money to do that.
But they have to. Do we know when they plan to do it?
I don't, but would you take that down Shepherd Park? And I will get it back to your leadership so at the next meeting you can tell people what I found out. Because yes, that the money to do that has been for some time in the federal budget.
Excuse me, Congresswoman, on the interest of time, Carol, can we last one?
I just have a question about National Park Service. There's a 60,000 gallon aeronautical fuel tank in Anacostia Park where the helicopters land over by Capitol East. And we tried for a long time to get them to move that out of there, but they had to make some kind of, arrangement with somebody to take it out of our park and put it in somebody else's park or someplace else. But that's right in our neighborhood. I mean, it's right down by the pirate ship practically.
Would you get that information to me? This is the first time I've heard of some fuel tank, are you saying?
Yeah, aeronautical fuel, for the helicopters.
She'll give you so we'll look into that and try to get back to you. I don't know.
You can be the last question, sir.
I heard you say.
One more.
I want to, let me identify myself. My name is Mr. Charles Gary Wood, Ms. Hill. My concern, and I might be fair to say my expertise, is in mental health. And the things that I see going on in how St. Elizabeth was cut, divided, and now it's moving into a real estate environment that the public and the citizens are being cut short. And they're being cut short on the treatment of human beings that are patients. I've been to your office many times and you've been most gracious. You really have. But my main point, without getting into particulars, is there are a lot of people that live in Maryland, Virginia, that work inside there, and they have a few from foreign countries that work inside there.
Do you have a question, sir?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's really a problem. And I'll stop if you don't want me to talk. I don't have a problem with that.
I would like for you to present your question.
Okay. is there any way that you could get slots, employment for DC residents? Because
In where was
St.
it?
Elizabeth,
Where?
St. Elizabeth, St. Elizabeth.
Shelter.
That's not a shelter.
It's not a shelter.
No, the actual
Oh, the
hospital.
hospital.
The actual hospital.
The actual hospital.
Okay.
That's,
I don't know who, no, this is not, this is a DC issue. You're gonna have to talk to your council member. I don't know if DC sets aside, tries to set aside some jobs. The federal government doesn't allow that. I don't know if DC tries to set aside, it may have the authority, some posts for residents, but your Treon White, your council member ought to be able to tell you that. But I'm sorry, I don't have that in the federal government. And that is a city facility, by the way. That is not a
yeah,
federal
but they
facility.
receive federal money.
That's not the point.
It's not, it's a city facility. We don't have any control over it.
I can only speak my mind. I don't know what the point is.
Well, thank you.
I'll explain it.
Phil.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yes, Phil.
Yeah, Congresswoman Norton, thank you so much for complimenting the Ward 8 Democrats in your prefatory remarks. And I just, before I ask my question, I just want to mention some initiatives that are happening here in Ward 8 to assist you in our quest for statehood. You, as a daughter of the civil rights movement, knows more than anyone what constituencies need to be mobilized in order for us to achieve statehood, because statehood, at its very core, is a human and civil rights issue. Here in Ward 8, first of all, we are going to make a major effort to organize high school Democratic clubs, extracurricular clubs.
Question,
So,
please.
I said before, you have to set this up.
You got to get to the question, Phil.
We are going to do that, and so that the students can be more involved in the statehood issue. Just like to know that once we get them going, will your office be available for visits? Secondly, the faith community is not really that much involved in the statehood issue. So we're going to start an effort to have statehood Sundays here in Ward 8. What else do you think that we can do here in Ward 8 to help you? I remember you said that there is a major need for a social media type of real targeted effort. How is that coming along, and how can we be
Yeah,
helpful?
I've been very disappointed in how we use social media. Everybody uses social media. I've tried, I've been unsuccessful. I would like a coordinated social media campaign on issues involving statehood. And every meeting I haven't raised it here, I've gone to, I said, in order to do it, so you're not having random notions of statehood and you don't have any message. It's just, all I need is, all you need, because I can't do it. It's lobby. It's considered lobbying. All you need, but you're going to have someone talk afterwards. And Barbara, if you do this, this will be a service. You need about 6 people. You need about 6 people. You need them to be coordinated, so that you say the message of the day is. Let me give you an example of the message of the day. The message of the day now ought to be July 24th. I think that's a Tuesday. We want to storm the House of Representatives. We want so many people to come to that hearing that they're going to have an overflow room. That ought to be the message of the day. How's it coming? Well, it comes from me, it comes randomly from other people. If we had a group, and it could be by the way, it shouldn't just be a statehood group, but it should be a DC group talking on DC issues of the day. And the same message then went out across the city. You could get all kinds of action in the district you don't have now, because we do not make coordinated use of social media. The fact that I'm on every conceivable media myself social media myself is enough. I'm not coordinated with whoever else is on it. It's going to be your time.